Mark and I just had dinner together. It was nice.
Oh, great, great. Yeah.
Hello, hello.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody in news.
Can we all have seats, please, so we can get started? Going well. We'll get this going on.
So,
Okay.
oh, were you going to say something?
Just going to introduce Mark.
Oh, I was going to do
That's
an
fine.
intro.
No, you can do it.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
You can do it.
just process-wise, and then we...
Yeah, for microphones and stuff.
Yes.
So you can just introduce him. You don't need me to do that.
Well, I wasn't going to introduce,
Okay.
but
You want me to?
introduce the commission. I was going to
commissioners?
yeah.
Sure.
The president was going to come up and say something, and then introduce Mark.
That's him right there.
Yeah.
He'll get it.
Okay. All right.
good.
Okay.
No.
First. I'll leave my phone right here.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this listening tour. We are delighted to have the new county executive, Marc Elrich, here tonight, who's extended his listening tour to include Poolesville, and listen to our concerns and exchange ideas with us. And I'd like to just introduce some other people in the audience here. My fellow commissioners, Valerie Dickerson, who is Vice President of the Commission, Martin Radigan, Carrie Cook, Jim Brown's here. We have council members Friedson and Glass, who are here also. One of our cluster coordinator, Kevin Schramm, and Jane Lehrman's here, who is president of the Poolesville High School PTA. And we're all delighted that all you could come out here, especially the young students that are here tonight, and hopefully you'll let your voices be heard. And with that, I would like to turn this over to Diane Vu, who will outline how this will run tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Diane Vu. I am with the Office of Community Partnerships. For those of you who don't know me, I am the process person, so I'm here to talk to you about the process. We will have two wireless mics, one on the left side of the room and one on the right side of the room. Sean Ellis will have the mic on the right. Claudia Canales will have the mic on the left. If you want to speak, please just raise your hand, and they will come around to you. You will have 2 minutes, so in fairness to everybody and to try to get through as many questions as possible, everybody will have 2 minutes. You will be notified when you have 30 seconds, 15 seconds, 5 seconds, and then they will take the mic back at 0 seconds. Please do not try to take the mic out of their hand. If you have not noticed, we have police and fire and rescue in the building, okay? Just in case we can't get to your question tonight, you can still give us feedback via the index cards that will be out on the table and passed around by Casey Caseman, who is in the back of the room. You can also give feedback through the website, which is on top of your cards. You can go to the website, go to listening sessions, click on Add Your Voice, and fill out that form. All of the comments from the index cards, all of the comments that we receive through the website, and also the notes from the listening sessions will be compiled into a report that will get turned over to Mark and the transition team in order to guide their strategy for the next 4 years, right? Well, yeah, 4 years for now. With that being said, without further ado, I would like to turn it over to your county executive.
That was not going to work. So I'm going to try to answer as many questions as I can answer tonight. So you'll get to ask questions. If I can answer it, I'll do it. If I can't answer the question, we're taking notes, and we'll get your name, and we'll get back to you with an answer. But I do try to answer as many as I can, and hopefully this will be a good interchange for you and for me. I've learned a lot so far. We've done 4 of these. We added in Poolesville. We just added in Bethesda and Wheaton. So when I'm done, I will have done 8 of these listening sessions, we've already talked to well over 1,000 people, probably over 1,500 people through the first 4. So we're probably about between 13 and 15. So we're looking forward to doing these and, getting public feedback. And so with that said, we'll start with the questions.
Here in the middle, Mark, on your right.
Hi. Oh, sorry. We already feel kind of neglected out here. One example would be when you scheduled your first 4 listening sessions, which sounded like when they were originally scheduled, the only ones you were going to schedule. There wasn't one out here in the Up County. It's just another example we feel constantly neglected out here, and like we have to fight for attention, fight for resources. Most of us out here, I would say, are really tired of the fight. How can you assure us that you are going to not neglect us out here?
Well, I'm going to look at the issues that people have raised and try to address, those things that are within my purview. I mean, there's some things that do get done at the county level that I have more control of. There are things done at the school level that I have far less control of. So those things which I control, I'll try to make sure that we address the concerns. I think you have a lot of legitimate concerns up here. It is kind of, as you all have raised about the lack of services up here, that you're basically driving to Gaithersburg or Germantown to get services. That's something we really need to look hard at and figure out how we bring some services up here. So we're looking at it. I'm aware of it. As an executive, I've got an ability to propose a budget as opposed to just deal with the budget that gets sent over to us. So we'll try to make some things more real than they've been in the past.
Over here, Mark. Oh, I have a little cold, so excuse me, Mark. First of all, congratulations on your election, and thank you for coming out to Poolesville. Whether we were a last-moment add-in or not, we appreciate the fact that you're here tonight, so thank you for that. I'm Valerie Dickerson, one of the Poolesville Town Commissioners. One of my greatest passions from the time I moved to Poolesville in 1969 was the quality of life that we would live in this community surrounded by the beautiful Ag Reserve. Having lived here most of my life, partaken in many, many activities, volunteered for many organizations, the thing that still stands so strong for me today is the quality of life for our senior citizens. Not just because I'm about to be one, but because I often refer to Poolesville as the town that built me. And it's our senior citizens that helped me to become the person I am today. And my reason for doing the things that I do today is so that the quality of life that we live in this community can be upheld. So all I'd like to propose today, and I'd like to use the word that I hope we use over and over tonight, is the fair access. Fair access to the things that everyone else in the county is getting. And our senior citizens are so important that they don't have to sit in a home and not be able to go and be and do and have a quality of life that they've been used to living just because some things in their life change from health standards to where they live. So we really just want you to consider what we can do together in a partnership to get those things together, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to explain to you a little bit of what constrains the county budget. Things like facilities get built out of what's called the capital budget, and up until the year before last, we had about a $400 million capital budget, and because people were concerned about the amount of debt that the county has and the amount of interest payments, how much they take of the budget, we were put under pressure to lower the amount of borrowing that we were doing. So we dropped our borrowing down to the low 300 millions, which doesn't seem low to most people, but it's low in the world of borrowing. So it's constrained our ability to continue to borrow and build things. And so what I'm looking at is, are there any projects I can reprioritize? I have a particular road project that I'm very not fond of, down closer to the southern part of the county, and I'm probably going to move that project away to try to create some space for some other things which we need to do. I think this is about choices, and when I'm confronted with issues of schools and services, my preference is probably schools and services over road building projects. So I'm going to see what I can do, and we're going to try to work within our limits to provide as much as we can possibly provide.
To your right.
Okay. Hi, Mark. Vince Doring, we just met a little while ago. This is my daughter, Lauren. She goes to school here in Poolesville. We live north of here in Comus, but we're in this Poolesville district. Just wanted to, and I know we talked quickly about this, wanted to enlighten you on issues related to internet access that we have problems with our kids who attend the schools here. Her assignments, they don't really give textbooks out anymore. Everything's online. So with limited textbooks given to schools these days, I know that they want to save dollars, and that's fine, but it doesn't work for all kids. We don't have reliable and consistent access for the internet right now, as we talked. So I have an easy solution, and I mentioned this to you before. The Verizon franchise agreement, the way I read it, and several other people have read this thing, and I think you're possibly in agreement with me on that, with your attorney that's read it. But, you know, all we have to do is enforce it. It has information in there that basically states that we should have service added for all residents in the expanded service area within 3 years of reaching 75,000 subscribers. According to the correspondence with the Office of Cable and Franchise, Verizon reached 75,000 in September 2009, 10 years ago. So however, Montgomery County Cable Office refuses to enforce the agreement. It's like they work for Verizon and not for the residents of the county. So I'm hoping, you know, that you can help us change this. Okay. A couple other key points on this. It also, I know we would love a new school in this area, and in order to fund the new school, we're missing out on 5% of revenue per the contract for all the people that want the service up in this area that don't have it. Okay, and then the other point I'm going to make here is that my property values, I know they're going up in Poolesville, but they're going down right now in Comus area. Because I've asked people, you know, in essence, why? And they said, well, we need to come someplace, we need to have our family have internet access. So it's a whole circle thing, and it's dwindling down. I'm hoping you can help us with this situation.
So yours is a very straightforward question. I'm going to find out what the actual number is on Verizon. Somebody told me they hadn't reached 75. You obviously got information saying they had, but if they've reached 75, then I will work to enforce the contract. They owe it to people. I never understood in the first place why they weren't required to expand service as a condition of their grant initially, regardless of whether it was 75. I think they owe it to the households up here to expand, and I will work on that. And I'll get you an answer. You're going to leave, hopefully get information to my staff about your address or emails, which my staff can take from you, so that we can get an answer back to you. Thank you.
Mark over here. Hi, Mark. Cheryl Imperator. I live in Boyd's, and one of my main concerns is transportation. We're getting all the development by the outlet mall, and we were supposed to have a transit center in Clarksburg before phases 3 and 4 were permitted to be built. And I just see building, building, building. And now I'm seeing huge pipes that are going to go into our reservoir at Little Seneca Lake. And that to me means the runoff from Clarksburg is going to end up in our drinking water. Can you address these points, please?
I know the issue about the pipes and whether the pipes are coming from Clarksburg or coming from the other development that's farther down. And it may not make a difference to the lake at the end of the day, but if that was part of the original plan, I have less that I can do about that than I can about Clarksburg, where it was pretty clear that we did everything we could to reduce the density and the need for sewer on a bunch of that property up there. I mean, I thought it was one of the better decisions the county made to save 10 Mile Creek. On the transportation end, I'm supporting the approach that the council took probably almost 8 or 10 years ago when O'Malley was still governor, when we encouraged them to add 2 reversible lanes to I-270 within the existing built footprint. They have the ability to do that. And if they added 2 reversibles, we could have 2 lanes going south in the morning, which is what you need getting out of here, and then those would reverse and bring you 2 lanes north. It's a system that's used in Virginia, it's used in a bunch of other places around the country, and I'm actually looking at doing more with reversibles because it lets us address the needs that we have without building more road than we need and without taking more right-of-way than we need. So that's one project I'm going to work on. The other one is on 355. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not hiding anything. I always opposed M83. I thought it was environmentally destructive and not the best way to do a project. But what I do support is widening 355 to a 5-lane road from Clarksburg down to Montgomery Village Avenue, and that would add an additional lane, again, reversible in the peak direction. And if you think about it, the 2 lanes that come out of Clarksburg are not carrying 2 full extra lanes of traffic. That would be impossible. They're carrying hundreds of cars more than they're designed to carry, and it's quite possible that 1 lane would help relieve some of that congestion, along with the interchange that's going to be north of, what's the Watkins Mill interchange, will help get people over to 270, which will be useful, particularly if they put the reversibles in. When you get to Montgomery Village Avenue, people can get over to 270. So there'll be 2 outlets off of 355 to get traffic over to 270. And part of our plan was a bus rapid transit up 355 direct to Clarksville, so people in Clarksville don't get the scenic tour of the west side of I-270 in their effort to get to the Shady Grove Metro. So we're going to look at direct access, and again, doing that with a reversible lane rather than 2 lanes. So I'm trying to come up with solutions and be aware of our ability to fund things so we can actually provide solutions.
But we were supposed to have a transit center where ComSat is before phases 3 and 4 went forward.
Well, but
whatever happened to that?
I wasn't on the council when 3 and 4 went forward, but this, I mean, I stopped the last phase. I wasn't around for the earlier phases. I mean, this is a problem because the county never got the CCT funded. As you know, the state altogether right now has pulled the funding from the CCT and is no longer considers it a state project. They object to the loop that you go through when you get down near Hopkins. The CCT takes a very long loop, which adds a lot of time, and the state said that's not rapid transit. So myself and Sidney Katz have worked on an alternative alignment with we're working with our DOT staff to come up with an alignment that would meet the state's requirements, so the state will put it back on their list. And I've talked to the state, and they said if you can straighten it out, we will talk to you about doing this project. So we're trying to do what we can do to get it back into the schedule, get it designed in a way the state will support it, and provide you the service. But I don't have a time machine, and I can't go backwards. Thank you.
To your right, Mark.
Hi, my name is Catherine Bellevaux. I'm a 24-year resident of Poolesville and the executive director of WAMCO Help. In your inauguration speech, you mentioned the recent health study released by the county. That study ranked Poolesville as last, 36 out of 36 in the county in terms of overall health. As people in that lowest rated zip code, we deserve to be at the top of the list when it comes time to place new programs or expand existing ones. There are many factors that contribute to the low rating, but certainly one of the most important is the lack of accessible services here. We have one doctor in town. We have no county senior center or community center. Ironically, we're a food desert. We are a transportation desert with one bus line with a very limited schedule. The closest public social services are at least an hour away by bus. And because of the limited bus schedule, it would require a 6 to 8 hour time commitment for an appointment at social services if one has no car. It's a 25 to 30 minute drive by car. Without bus service beyond a block from our main street, many people in need cannot use Metro Access. And there are others just beyond Poolesville and Dickerson and Bellsville who are in an even worse position. Executive Elrich, we need you to, one, address the nearly complete lack of accessible services and transportation in the West Up County area. Two, be a strong advocate for a multi-use high school facility to bring equity to this area. And three, since we know that planning and building a new facility is a lengthy project, we need to see a plan to immediately address the current health and transportation needs of the Western Up County area. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. So like I said in the last question, I've got a pretty clear idea of where I want to go with the transportation piece of this. You need to be served. The issue of health services, I was in a meeting at between 4:30 and 5 today where we were talking about the 10, it's more than 10 zip codes, but the 10 worst areas in the county for health outcomes, and about a plan which is early, because I've been here a week, and they walked in my office and showed me more paper than I could look at and said I don't have enough time to do everything right now. But they did a quick presentation, and one of the things includes Poolesville as one of the top 10 areas in the county that are deficit, severely deficit in terms of health access and services. And so, my intention, I asked my staff to bring that forward and talk to the acting HHS director and to talk to my CAO, because this is a priority for me. I think it's important to address these areas. I mean, the statistics, if you ever want to get depressed, just look at the statistics in this county. We do surprisingly badly in things like infant mortality and maternal mortality. Our numbers are among the worst in the state, which is really, something's wrong. And so we're going to focus on these things. The school is difficult. You've got to get the school system to put that project on the list. But we have begun talks about, could we add a facility to the newer part of the building that could be a multi-use facility that might address, could be, health related, it could be, other services related. That was something we could do sooner than later. And so that's one of the projects that I'm going to have us start looking at and scoping out, because I just don't think it's justifiable to leave this county with the absence of services. And the fact that it's low population doesn't mean you should get low treatment.
Back here, Mark. Back room, over here.
Sorry. Mr. County Executive, I'm Jane Learman. I'm the PTSA president of Poolesville High School. First off, congratulations on your win. And I'm going to be addressing the reconstruction of Poolesville High School and the relationship to fair access. I don't live in Poolesville. I live in Gaithersburg cluster, so I drive a lot. I have two daughters that went to this school. One has graduated, one is still here. I'm very attached to this school. I plan to continue advocating even after my younger daughter graduates. This is my issue. For over 25 years, we cannot get one CIP, school, Board of Ed CIP, to build a school. I understand the benefits of synergy, but how are we going to reconcile 4 CIPs to build the school? This is not about being against fair access. This is about being for the rebuilding of the school. And this is a fact. 60% of the students that go to Poolesville High School do not live in Poolesville cluster. That is based on real numbers from Montgomery County Public Schools. So the safety and the quality of the building is not just, it's mainly a Poolesville issue, but it affects a lot of students outside of Poolesville cluster. So while fair access, of course, is what we want, how are we going to, what happens if the Department of Recreation doesn't want to build something? Is that going to hold up the building of the rebuilding of the school?
So the Department of Recreation doesn't build the school, it's only the school system that builds the school.
Well, I meant like for the community center, that's the Department.
So as we're looking at the other pieces, I mean, it is going to be the executive's budget.
Okay.
And departments don't get to pick and choose. With what makes it through my budget has to make it through the county council. But once it's through the county council, then they become actual real projects that have start dates and end dates. And so my goal is to try to come up with what can I do, what can I move into the budget. Again, we're constrained. This is an off year. We're only supposed to be making minor changes, but I'm actually looking at making some slightly bigger changes if I see some opportunities. So let me see what I can do, but I don't even have a program of requirements and a cost estimate on a project right now. So if we decide that's the direction we want to go in, then we're going to have to start developing the plan for this project, and hopefully I can get a concrete plan that we can discuss in next year's CIP, which is a full CIP. But I totally get where you're coming from. And, the alternative to 60% of students not going here would be dealing with overcrowded schools in some other high school and probably closing this high school down because they're not going to keep it open for 40% of the students and wind up busing everybody out of Poolesville to a school that's even farther, much farther away. So I don't think those are good solutions. I think the best solution is to deal with the school you have and serve the population you have.
To your right, Mark.
My name is Vikram Mangat. I'm an entrepreneur, and I have a weight loss clinic in Clarksburg, Maryland. It's no secret that not only in this county, but in this country, obesity is an epidemic. 1 in every 3 Americans is either overweight or suffers from obesity. The industry I'm in is huge. As an entrepreneur, I can tell you by 2024, the weight loss industry is scheduled to be $264 billion in size. And one thing my industry has forgotten about is people without money. The weight loss industry currently is only serving people that have money. A big group of people in this county that do not have money are students, whether it's high school students or college students. So my question is, what initiatives is the county taking to raise awareness for obesity and weight bias in students?
So I can't honestly answer what the school system does in the school in terms of healthcare and in terms of work with the students, but we can try to find out for you. I mean, it's a good question, and we do fund clinics in some schools. They certainly have physical education programs, which are supposed to basically help people become aware of healthfulness. But we'll see if they have anything specific.
Over here, Mark.
Hi. Do you want me to hold it or you?
No, okay.
Hi, congratulations, first of all. Secondly, I'm Caroline Taylor with Montgomery Countryside Alliance, and I would like to talk a little bit about wells and septic systems. Very sexy subject. Right now, we are all standing in an area outside the WSSC service area. I think most know that. Whether you're in the town of Poolesville, served by the municipal water system or the municipal wastewater system, or whether you're an individual in the agricultural reserve, your water comes from an aquifer designated by the federal government, a sole source aquifer, through, again, individual wells or the municipal wells. And your wastewater is treated either from individual septic systems or a packaged plant, a plant that's in the town. So as the county was undergoing the 10-year water and sewer update this year, the discussion came with civic representatives as what will the county be willing to do to better educate those who use individual wells, who use individual septic systems, to ensure the health of those systems. I have to say there was pushback. It was not something that was at the front of the staff at Department of Environmental Protection. And once again, thank you. Once again, we were sort of left out trying to figure out how to provide that education ourselves. So my question to you is how does DEP, how does the county do better by those of us who are served by those systems, because the aquifer is irreplaceable and we certainly can't afford to extend water and sewer and shouldn't out to this area. Did I do it? Yes. Yay.
Yay.
Good
So
job.
I was one of those who wanted them to have a more robust education program. And so we're going to look at what we're doing, and we're going to make sure we put a more robust education in place. We can't have the systems failing, because that's just going to damage your water supply. And it's going to make it harder to repair a system if a system's gone to failure. And so we want people to properly maintain them. We know that a lot of people don't have the information about what it takes to maintain a system. You may buy a house, you may think you've got a septic system, and you may not have a clue about what you need to do to make sure that thing functions until the moment when it ceases to function. And then you're probably also clueless, but you also know you have to do something about it. So hopefully we're going to put in place things that address that. And, we're going to start by making sure our website has the information it should have. I did see a mailing that came from the state, where the state actually had updated information for people who are on sewer and septic, talking about what you need to do. And I think, we'll follow suit, making sure we're doing what we need to do.
To your right.
All right. Jerry Klobakowski, President of the Poolesville Commissioners. I've been the Educational Liaison Commissioners for the past 22 years. We did have a date. We had a date back in 2001 of 2019, and then all of a sudden the date disappeared for about 13 years till about 2013. And then it was 2021, and it kept getting pushed back. Now we have no date. So we've come up with an innovative solution. We've talked with Department of Recreation members. We've talked with members of the Health and Human Services Department. We've talked with the MCP about having a police substation out here. And we think that you could achieve a lot of synergies by building a co-located new Poolesville High School, because this building is 68 years old right now, and it's going to get older. And you're talking about a lot of the stuff in here is just as old as the building. So you're going to have more problems with it. It's going to age. It's harder to go and Band-Aid something like this building than it is to build a new one. And we think having a co-located Poolesville High School with a Western Montgomery County Community Center, which would specifically have a room built in it at the time of construction for a clinic and an MCP substation, would go a long way to serve this underserved part of the county in many different ways. And, we look to you. We understand, I heard what you said about you rely on the Board of Ed, the Health and Human Services Department, and Rec Department. But we look to you for your leadership to spur some of these departments to get their, ducks in a row, and through your leadership, make it happen and not turn around and say, well, these other departments they come up with their own plans.
Jerry, I think I'll answer you the same way I answered the other woman who asked that question. I'm the county executive, and I put a project in the budget and the council supports it, then those things will happen. The only thing I cannot control is the school end of that project. I can control all the other service ends of it. I do not control the school. And people are going to have to, I wish I knew the formula for getting the school system to advance this project. But you should pay attention. The state has provided more money for schools. It is an opportunity for folks to go and talk, not just to the superintendent, but to the board about the importance of getting this school done. But I'll work on my end of it, which I think can actually go forward independently and should go. The rest of those services shouldn't be hostage to when the school system gets around to doing the school. To the extent that we can do these things sooner rather than later, we should do them sooner rather than later.
Mark, over here.
Hi, Mark. Dan Savino. I'm a teacher here at Poolesville High School. I've been to county council meetings to testify in the past, and also Board of Ed meetings, and I've also been to Annapolis. And the one thing that we've heard over and over again is the Board of Ed will say, well, the county council controls our budget and we don't have enough for schools. Then the county council says, well, the state of Maryland doesn't give us our due share back, which that is true. A lot of money leaves the county and doesn't come back in equal amounts. And then the county council will say, well, we can't control the Board of Ed, but you guys did exactly that a few years ago whenever you approved the budget with an earmark and said, we'll approve this, but you must take this certain amount of money and reduce class size. So you did hold the carrot, and so I know the county council says we can't control what the Board of Ed does, but you did, right? Not you personally, but the county council literally said this budget will be approved if you do this. And so I'm wondering if, in a future budget, could you say you must use X amount of money for your failing infrastructure problem?
Operating and capital were two different budgets, and that was the operating budget. And even within that, we have limited ability. I have to approve a budget for the school system that meets maintenance of effort, which means their budget has to increase every year by growth in population and inflation. And I cannot fund them for less than that. So all we did a couple of years ago was say, if you want the extra money in your operating budget has to go to programs to help students who need the most help and can't go, for example, to the salary line. That's what we did, but I could not have gone below maintenance of effort, and I don't have a similar lever with the capital budget. The capital budget is restricted by the amount of money we have over a 6-year cycle. I don't have a lever to say, I'm not going to give you this school, for example, this school, if you don't give me that school. That's the trade-off I can't make.
Back on your right.
My name is Doug Boucher. I live in Dickerson. I'd like to say congratulations, Mr. County Executive, and I presume we can still call you Mark. I'd like to talk about climate change, which is to my mind, the most important environmental issue of our time. The county last year agreed to go to becoming carbon neutral by 2035. That was a very important step, but we now need a plan to actually make it happen. You may have seen the energy plan proposal put forward by Stephanie Riddick of the Sierra Club. I strongly support that. I'd like to mention a couple points that I think are going to be important to achieving that. First of all, we're going to have to move to closing down our main sources. And I live in a very small community, Dickerson, which has the dubious distinction of being by far the biggest source of fossil fuel emissions in Montgomery County with our coal-fired power plant and our trash-burning incinerator. We have to find ways to move to closing both of those down. Secondly, we need to encourage reforestation to take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. We have a forest conservation law in the county. It's good, it's valuable, but we need to really strengthen that to encourage much more reforestation. And finally, and most importantly, we need to have a massive improvement in the amount of renewable energy that we generate in Montgomery County. And this specifically means solar farms in the agricultural reserve. And I hope that you'll not only move towards allowing solar farms, but in fact encouraging and promoting them. That's what we need to achieve a truly carbon neutral Montgomery County and to solving the great challenge of climate change. Thank you.
So, there's some things we can do easier than others. I actually think that the lowest hanging fruit for us, because it doesn't take anything out of productivity, is solar panels over garages, over parking lots, and on one-story and two-story flat roof buildings, for which there's plenty of room. It would defeat the purpose of the ag reserve if it went too far in that direction, because it's an ag reserve. And I don't want to get in a debate with people where suddenly I allow non-agricultural uses and then somebody else says, well, you've violated the ag reserve and you've allowed non-agricultural uses, let me do other things that are non-agricultural. I think it's a tight balance. So, you know, my preference is to focus where you got the population concentrated and the electrons have to cover the shortest distance, but also where I think, you know, we have ample opportunities in every shopping center, you know, every school, every flat top government building to do more solar. And I'm committed to doing that. I had a long discussion with a friend of mine who's in the audience and somebody who came in from the on the pro-solar end of the world earlier today. I've had a very interesting day today. And I'm looking for ways to do as much of that as we can possibly do, and I'm committed to it. I'm one of the two, well, it was me and Hucker and Nancy Navarro, I guess, who pushed for the strengthening the language as much as we possibly could, because I think that's an important thing for us to do. So I'm aware of this, and I want to stay on top of it, and we're going to try to do as much as we can possibly do, and basically I think, you know, we need to do a better job of educating industry and educating homeowners about the value of solar. I don't think we've done enough. There are incentives out there. We're going to work to see if we can do what California does, where they finance people's solar panels essentially on your tax bill at like no interest, and it rides on your bill, and you don't, and so, you know, you paid over 20 years, which is not a bad proposition. And it doesn't come, you don't have to pay it off when you sell your house, so it doesn't put any liens on your property. We do this for commercial. We'd like to be able to do it for residential, because I think doing something like that would lead to a rapid expansion of solar in the county. So I'm there.
Mark, back here, right, over here. Over here.
Hi, I'm Miriam Schoenbaum. I'm president of the Boyd's Historical Society. I'm a board member for Action Committee for Transit. I'm a longtime MARC rider. As you probably know, the Boyd's community has a plan for expanding the Boyd's MARC station so that more people can get to the Boyd's MARC station and get on MARC. It involves buying the property across from the current MARC station in Boyd's. There's money in the capital budget to buy the property, and I guess I would just like to hear some assurance that the property will actually get bought, because buying the property is the first step towards expanding the MARC station on it.
So I'll simply look to see if the money's in the capital budget. I don't remember every single thing I put in the capital budget. I'll make sure if it's there that we, you know, move forward on it, because I agree you would get a lot more people using the train if you could park more cars up here. And that would take a bunch of cars off the road, and your roads aren't such that you really should have as many cars on them as you do. Going south is not the easiest thing to do early in the morning. So let me see what I can find out.
Back here on your right.
Congratulations on your election, Mr. County Executive. I'm Adam DuBois. I live in Boyd's, and I am the Assistant Director of WUMCO. WUMCO stands for the Western Upper Montgomery County HELP. Western Upper Montgomery County, as far as we are concerned, consists of 5 towns: Poolesville, Boyd's, Barnesville, Bellsville, and Dickerson. You've heard from people from a couple of those towns already. We have probably 25% of the ground area of the county, less than 5% of the population. However, the population of elderly people in Western Upper Montgomery County is higher than the average of the county. The population of youth in our area is higher than the rest of the county. We have people in incredible need and no transportation, no medical assistance, no police nearby. We all have to go down to Germantown or Gaithersburg, which seems close, but it's not the up county. entrepreneur. I just want to hope that in addition to your leadership, and this is what we're asking for, I know you don't run the school board, but you can exert some leadership with those folks. Get something done about this high school, and get something done about a police substation, a clinic, senior center, youth center, all kinds of things that we need up here. We're in a desert. We're in a food desert. There's no grocery store in our 5 towns. One's coming, hopefully, next fall, but we were told that last year, next fall. We don't have any mass transit. You know, we're in a lot of desert areas, and for a place that hosts the agricultural reserve, being in a desert is pretty darn scary. Thanks.
I hear you. I won't repeat what I said before, but I get the message, and anybody who knows me knows I'm not particularly shy. So if I have something to say to somebody, I will say it.
Mark, over here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here. I just wanted to add another voice to the internet situation. We're a family of 4, 2 kids in high school, trying to run a small business, trying to get work done. It's very, very difficult when the phone won't connect or your service provider slows down your internet speeds because you've exceeded whatever number of gigabytes you're allowed. Regardless of what happens with that magical number of 75,000 through Verizon, I ask that you please really do look into this, because it's very hard for us to contribute financially to the county, to get our work done, for our kids to succeed in school. It's a real problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I wasn't going to ask that. So, Ellen Gordon Dickerson, this fall, the County Council unanimously passed a zoning text amendment that goes a long way towards promoting successful wineries and breweries and distilleries and cideries in the Ag Reserve. What I'd like to know is what plans your administration has for similarly putting a push on for more food production in the Ag Reserve, as well as fiber production, flour production, and I'd like to also know how you might be able to tie that. I'm following up on the comment about the importance of our battling climate change, how we might tie that to carbon sequestration on farms.
So it's an interesting question. I mean, we acted on wine and we acted on breweries because there were people who had farms who wanted changes in the laws as they regarded wine, breweries, cideries. Nobody who grows vegetables has come to me and asked whether you can change a law that would affect vegetable production. And I don't disagree with you, but as I understand it, farmers grow crops that they think they can bring to market, and that's become increasingly difficult. And that vegetable crops are maybe more risky because you have a crop failure in tomatoes, whatever you've planted, you're pretty much done, and they're susceptible to a lot more variations in weather than, say, wheat. So there's a reluctance to do things unless there's a certainty in markets. So one of the things I've asked people to explore is, can we do things using technology, say, to tie grocery stores or restaurants to the Ag Reserve and have, say, a grocery store say, I want X amount of Bibb lettuce in these months during the spring, and put that out there and see if a farmer up here would say, I'd be willing to take a contract to provide you that. I think, we're going to have to work on what you can do to create a market or support market creation so that the farmers feel there's a safety in planting a crop and knowing it's going to be sold. I've been on people's land and watched them bemoan, for example, a field of eggplant that never got sold, never got picked, never got sold, and then it's lost. And, if every eggplant on that farm had been sold, you would have had a really, really profitable year. And if it doesn't get sold and people don't come up, then he really struggles. So I think that we've got to figure out what we can do to support a more diversified agriculture. I mean, I'd like the schools to buy more locally sourced food. There are actually jurisdictions where they preference locally sourced food. I was a school teacher. I wouldn't feed my kids what was being fed in a school breakfast. I'll be honest with you. I mean, you know, pouring a bunch of syrup over some white bread and calling that French toast, that's just not real. You know, kids need real nutrition, and that wasn't it. So I'd like to see a more robust farm to school and farm to market program, and I'll work on it, but hopefully people will come forward and say, if you're going to do this, you need to do X, Y, and Z. That would help.
Over here, Mark. Hi, I'm Leslie McDonald. I'm the Executive Director of Nonprofit Montgomery and a member of the Social Services Board. I wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to express our opinions today. And as you know, Nonprofit Montgomery is an alliance of nonprofits that serve the county. And nonprofits, the county contracts with many nonprofits to provide essential services, feeding, sheltering, helping the elderly, doing prevention programs, and there's a really wonderful partnership between the county and the nonprofits. However, when the county contracts with nonprofits, those contracts don't include automatic increases to make up for increases in the cost of living and salaries and insurance and the other things, which at the end of the day, it keeps nonprofits from being able to continue to provide quality services without going out of business. And so my request is, can you budget for increases in nonprofit contracts in all the county departments right up front and help enable nonprofits to continue to provide high-quality services that people depend on?
We're going to have to look at what we can do. I don't disagree with you. We put a supplement on, for example, for minimum wage to make sure that, you know, if you're changing diapers on an adult, you need to make a better wage than the wage you'd make flipping burgers at McDonald's. And I think minimum wage was important, but I think we have to recognize that some work is not going to be done unless there's, you know, some incentive over the bare minimum wage to do it. So I think it's important to provide supplements. I really value what the nonprofits do, because we wouldn't be able to do the work the county does if we had to do these jobs ourselves. So I'm well aware of how you function, and I look at you as an extension of the county government, and it's really important. And I don't want anybody to think you're not valued, because you really are valued. So, you know, I will continue to look at this question. Human services are a priority. Hopefully it'll be, you know, a priority with everybody else who has to look at the budget, and we can, you know, make some progress in the area you're talking about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On your right, Mark.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I am a student at John Poole Middle School, and I just wanted to make like 3 main points. If the Verizon agreement is enforced, then I might be able to get my homework done before maybe like 11 p.m. Yeah, it's pretty hard to do with slow internet. And if my mom and dad could, like, efficiently telework from home, then there'd be a lot less traffic, and they could telework when there's, like, bad weather, like snowstorms. And also, if the Verizon agreement is enforced, then it would also help raise more funds for rebuilding Poolesville High School.
Thank you.
Over here, Mark.
Hi, first of all, I want to say congratulations, and thanks very much for coming out to Poolesville. And I think it's fantastic that you're doing this listening tour so early on in your administration. I don't know if that's typically done, but very, very good. My name is Brian Banks. I live in Poolesville, and I echo a lot of the comments for fair access and services in this part of the county. So I don't want to take away from that. But I want to put on another hat. I'm vice president of the American Council of Engineering Companies of Metropolitan Washington. And there's a big roadway project that's planned right through the county, the first phase of which has an RFQ for P3 coming out sometime in the next few months, early 2019. So I'm just curious as to your administration, what your opinion on that project is, and what the county is going to do to support that project going forward.
Are you talking about Hogan's plan?
Yep.
Okay. So I've already said on 270, I'm looking at two reversibles. I don't see any point in spending hundreds of millions of dollars for what I can accomplish with a lot less money. And as you get the reversibles in, I think we can deal with the traffic problem the same as if I got two dedicated lanes. But the state is also looking. I don't know, any of you have driven far enough south on 270 to notice the restriping project, but the state picked up a lane just by repainting the existing roadway. And if you drive far enough south, you can actually see the blacked out stripes and where the new stripes are. And they're looking at a combination of that, which would get us a lane in both directions for basically the cost of several buckets of paint. The other possibility is using the inside service lane on I-270, which could be repurposed to a through lane. And the combination of the two could give us 2 lanes north-south. I'd do it even though I don't need 2 lanes north-south because it's cheap, and you got to have the reverse lane anyway. That would even be less expensive than doing reversibles because I don't have to worry about gates and any of the other technology to allow switching access to it. The Beltway, you're not widening the Beltway between 355 and probably New Hampshire Avenue. There's covenants on Rock Creek Park. I don't know anyway, and I've looked at, every time I drive that thing, I try to imagine, could I squeeze in 1 or 2 lanes? I've done everything but stop my car and take a tape measure out and actually measure what's there. But from what I can see, the best you might get is a lane by restriping, but you're not going to get 2 lanes there. I think that that's going to be the limitation. I do think, the biggest problem in this area is the bridge. The American Legion Bridge, because all backups kind of descend from there. And so that backs up all the way on the Beltway and on 270. And I never understood why people treat the back end of the backup, instead of going to the place where it's a bottleneck, relieve the bottleneck, see what happens, and then design treatments after you've seen what relieving the bottleneck actually does. And I feel the same way about the exits onto Wisconsin Avenue, Connecticut Avenue, and Georgia Avenue from the Beltway. I don't know how many of you get as far south and east as Georgia Avenue, but it used to be a 1-lane exit off the Beltway onto Georgia. Now it's a 2-lane exit off the Beltway. It backs up just as far with 2 lanes, and the problem is Georgia Avenue, and the problem is Connecticut, and the problem is Wisconsin, which is why I've pushed for bus rapid transit on those routes, because if I ran bus rapid transit down median strips and got cars off the road, it would make it easier for cars on the Beltway to get onto these 3 internal county roads. And if all I do is fix or speed up the Beltway, then all I'm going to do is speed people to the back of a line, and it doesn't help them get off of the Beltway any faster than they're able to get off the Beltway now. So I'm going to advocate very hard for a little bit more sensible approach to transit planning. And now that the election's over and he doesn't need to make a big splash with how bold he is with, willing to spend money, I think we should address transit problems, but I think we should do it in a more thoughtful way than what he laid out there. I think there's stuff we can do. I don't think his first cut at solutions were very good solutions. Okay, we're going to go to 8:40 because we started a little bit late, so we'll give people a little bit more time.
Hi, there was someone on the town of Poolesville Facebook that wanted this question asked, and I also had curiosity about it. The 5G cell towers that are coming all over the area, the FCC's basically said, go wherever you want to these companies, and there's been not much responsible action by the companies that are coming into neighborhoods. They're not giving us much information ahead of time or anything else. I know that there's a neighborhood in Gaithersburg that's fighting this because of the health risks, the property values that would go down no matter where on my property that it's put. I personally wouldn't have bought my house had there been a cell phone tower on the property. So I'm wondering what the county can do as leaders of the county to make sure that the companies that are coming in that are going to make money off of a cell tower on my property are doing things that won't harm me, my children, or my property value.
So the first problem we ran into trying to regulate the cell towers is that the federal government prohibits us making any decision that considers health impacts at all. So we can't even discuss health impacts, and if I wanted to legislate and said I was legislating because of my concerns for health, that bill would be thrown out of court in about 2 seconds because we're barred from considering it. So what the council did do, we did a couple things, but what we did do in the health realm is we sued the FCC because when they were doing their rulemaking for 5G, they said they were going to do tests before 5G was implemented. They never did the tests. And so we're suing them not over the health effects, but over their failure to do the tests they said they were going to perform before they implemented 5G. So we've joined other jurisdictions in doing that. In the meantime, in the spring, we passed legislation that allows 5G in the urban areas on the rationale that this is where the bandwidth advantage of 5G would actually pay off because there's so many phones, businesses, and uses for 5G that there's a place where the normal 4G waves that you get from the towers that are much more spread apart, where it's more limited in efficacy, it gets blocked by walls, signals get overloaded, and so we passed something that affected the more urban areas of the county. I've looked at other implementation maps around the country, and one of the things that you'll find is in some of the implementation maps, the 5G towers are only in the commercial high-density areas, and the suburban neighborhoods have no 5G towers. And that fits the narrative, which is this is needed for places with high bandwidth demand. And if you're really bored, you can read the industry stuff on 5G, and they'll tell you they're going to use 4G anyway, because 4G provides a longer range band and a wider spread band. So for many places, 4G is all they're going to need. And if anybody tells you have to have 5G for cars, just remember they're driving cars all over the country, driverless cars on 4G networks, not 5G networks, because there aren't any 5G networks. Maybe one city has begun to implement them. So we're looking at this really carefully. We were able to block a bill that would have allowed the rapid spread of these towers in more suburban neighborhoods. We're going to go back. We have to avoid being preempted by the state legislature and being preempted by the FCC. So we're going to try to figure out what is the actual need for these towers and what's the spacing really need to be. The reason they want close spacing is that every one of you is a potential customer once the towers are installed, and then all they've got to do is bring you a box inside your house and turn your service on, which is much different than with a wired system where you've got to tap into the ground and bring a wire in for every house that decides to get wired. So I understand better what their plan is, and they want to also broadcast television, which they can do at 5G at the same lack of delay or latency that you get with a wired connection. So 5G is actually competitive with, if you're getting TV out of cable, it's actually competitive in quality with that now. So that's what they're looking to do, is bypass the wired companies and provide other providers access to cable.
Mark, back here, far left, over here, your left.
Yeah, okay.
There you go.
Good evening, sir. My name's Andrew, and I'm a new resident of Poolesville. Thank you very much. What I've noticed is that I've noticed that the county loves to offer sweetheart deals to gigantic corporations that don't need a dime of a break, but they want to give them, according to what I'm reading, between $5 to $8.5 billion in tax incentives between the county and the state. Now, what I don't understand is we have a Verizon problem, what I'm hearing, and we have a problem between services. How come the residents cannot receive sweetheart deals like big corporations do? Thank you.
I'm going to avoid my more cynical answer to that question, but you can probably guess. Look, The only person we gave that much money to, we didn't even give it to them. The only company we offered billions and billions of dollars to was Amazon. And as we discovered when they chose Virginia, we didn't lose it because of money. Pittsburgh actually bid $9.7 billion, and they still lost. It wasn't money, it was environmental stuff, and it has to do with, they could picture building, they didn't have to even build buildings in Crystal City. With JBG, they could just say, 2 years from now, we want you to empty out that office building. JBG would empty it out, do a quick renovation, and then give it over to Amazon. And with us, we had White Flint Mall, which has been scraped clean except for Lord and Taylor. And you'd have to build an entire street network. You'd have to build each building as they wanted us, because they wouldn't pay for a building to be built until they wanted the building, and it would look like not very good until a bunch of buildings had been built. So I think they saw a better environment over there. But there are things we need to learn. You know, the state of Virginia invested $1 billion, and I think in Virginia Tech, to put a school, you know, within 2 miles of where the Amazon campus would be, that focused on high tech. For as much high tech as we claim we do in our schools, we're not doing the things, at least at the level I've been told, that we need to do. So we need to look, I think, if we want to be attractive, more at what we are, what kind of places we create, and worry a little bit less about the money. But whereas, as long as we're in an environment where every jurisdiction insists on bidding by money, it's really difficult just to compete on your merits. And you know, I intend to try to convince my neighbors in COG that we really shouldn't be bidding against each other. You know, we should talk about our schools and our services, but draining the county of resources to attract somebody here, and then you don't even get the taxes we tell you you're going to get because I've just given them away. We really need to think carefully about when we do that and how much we do, and hopefully get our regional partners to kind of do a ceasefire and back away a little bit from that, because it's hard if every time somebody wants something that it's going to say, you know, hand it over or I'm going someplace else. But we got to think about how we do this.
Mark, right here. Hi, Mark. Tina Brown from Barnesville. I want to congratulate you. Very excited. I handed out your name all day long at the polls, had yard signs, did all these things I could try and get you across the finish line. So we're excited to have you in office. We've talked about septic and sewage and water, and I want to talk about trash. I bet you don't talk about these things at the Down County listening sessions. Okay. You do? Okay, good, good. Well, everybody's on board. Well, I know right now the county is funding, I think, $500,000 towards a study that will look at the long-range plan for how we deal with our trash. And when I was putting my recycling out tonight, I was so grateful that, you know, we could recycle mixed elements in our recycling stream for my trash pickup tomorrow. But I know that in Barnesville and at the Sugarloaf board meetings I go to, we're looking at a polluting incinerator. So what I'm asking you, and what members of my community are interested in, and Sugarloaf, as you know, is interested in, is can you talk to the consultant, the team that's looking at this study, to put an emphasis, to draw an emphasis away from incineration and towards more recycling, food composting, moving towards using actually the recycling capabilities we have here to get more paper and plastic out of this waste stream?
I agree completely. I want to shut the incinerator down.
Yay.
But we have to find a way to deal with the trash.
Right.
Because I also don't want to be part of taking all our trash and dumping it in some poor person's backyard in Virginia. That is not the right way to handle our problem. And so we need to look at what we're going to do. So I'm interested in food digesters and what we can do with possibly food to energy or food in Prince George's County. They mix it with their leaf mulch and they create Leaf Pro Gold. And it's got a market and it's got a price and it's valuable. And so we should be looking at programs like that to get the food out of the stream. I want the plastics out of the stream, and I'm looking, there are companies that purport to be able to make bricks out of plastic, and you don't have to sort the plastic. And so I'm going to try to get more information on them to see whether it's feasible to combine a brick-making facility with plastic separating at where we do the work now, and actually create a product that could be used in parks. Maybe homeowners would buy them to build retaining walls, but try to come up with something that turns plastic into something that we can make use of, rather than all this stuff going into the incinerator. I don't feel comfortable with the toxic ash, which we send to somebody else, and it's a decent portion by weight of the trash we take in. And so if we could just achieve the same weight going to a landfill, but not in the toxic form of ash, that would be a good starting point, and then we could work towards zero, and we wouldn't need the incinerator. But that is my goal. I mean, and I also, for those of you who don't know it, I testified on the power plant and asked them to, either shut it down or require the implementation of the Obama-era standards for a coal-fired plant, because that thing was operating under really, really dangerous standards. And they actually sent a letter saying they're requiring them to meet the better standards. But I would like to see the coal plant shut down. I'd like to see all coal plants shut down. It's just wrong. But again, the other side of that is everything you don't make use of in the way of an energy source, you've got to find alternative, cleaner ways of doing things. So it's never as simple as turning things off. I could do that all day. I got to figure out how to turn other stuff on or make it productive.
I agree with you on not having a replacement. That's why Sugarloaf presented the county council and the county executive's office last winter what we could afford in the way of a consultant on what a zero waste plan looks like in other parts of the country. So we agree you can't just do nothing and send the trash away.
So I'm going to step into one of those meetings and tell them where I want the meetings to go.
Thank you.
Okay, last question on the right side.
Thank you for coming to Poolesville. I was at the Germantown session in which I provided you and your staff a copy of the Verizon franchise agreement. My name is Pam Doring, and I live in Comus, and currently the only access that we have for our household internet is through a WISP, a wireless internet service provider. That's a line of sight. It means that if a tree grows on somebody else's property 2 years from now, we could absolutely lose our access. It's not a sustainable solution. It's not long-term. It's prone to weather interference, just like your dish network gets all fuzzy and goes out when it rains heavy, okay? It has low bandwidth. It's prone to interference from other devices, making the signal bad or weak, or it goes down. Sometimes my daughters had to hotspot to do homework. Somebody brought up the idea, or mentioned, I'm sorry, not an idea, but she brought up 5G. 5G would not be, or any kind of cell transmission is not something that is a solution either. I want to make sure I communicate that as far as getting internet out into the ag reserve and the expanded area. Because as I've gone out after I went to the Germantown session, I followed up 2 emails to Claudia and was forwarded to Mitzi, who told me that 75,000 subscribers was definitely already attained. And follow-up emails have said that it's been several years, more than 3. So the thing is that many of the people that I have spoken to in the Ag Reserve since finding out the 75,000 was attained has told me that they could not come tonight because their work requires a line provider and not wireless, and therefore that's why there aren't more people actually here speaking up on this issue. Thank you.
Over here.
Hi, Joyce Briner, co-founder and executive director of Poolesville Green, and congratulations on your election, and look forward to what you'll bring to the office. The most important issue for me, if I had to pick one, is the existential threat of climate change. And with regards to solar in the Ag Reserve, I would like you and your staff to take a closer look at possibilities of co-location of ag and solar. At a minimum, it could provide enhanced pollinator habitat. Also, the other aspect I wanted to talk about was, if I'm correct, and don't quote me, but think it's correct, in the ag reserve or anywhere in the county, you can't put any more than 200%, if you have rooftop, you can't put any more than 200% of your annual need for electricity on that rooftop. So if you have a farmer who has a lot of roof space because of big barns and outbuildings and things like that, they couldn't put all the capability on their roof that they have. And I'd like you also take a look at that. Thank you.
That's an interesting idea. Thank you.
So I believe that's our last question of the evening.
So, thank you all for coming out and asking questions and participating in the discussion. And we'll continue. We're going to be back. We're going to do 5 sessions, 1 in each district, for the budget. And I think we've done twice as many sessions as were done 12 years ago during the last transition. We are trying to get to everybody. And you're not the last people that were added. Bethesda and Wheaton got added after you did. Because we just realized people just don't think things that we think are close that you could get to are actually close enough for people to feel they can get to. So we'll be up to 8 when we're done with this.
Yes, thank you. And then I'd also like to thank Bob Sissel and Kevin Schramm for arranging our location. Thank you so much. And again, even if you did give feedback tonight, we encourage you to give feedback through the website. You can also give feedback on the note cards on your way out as well. As I mentioned, all of the notes, all of the feedback is going to get compiled into a report. Thank you, and we will be in Bethesda on Saturday afternoon. Have a good night.